Hey everybody, this is Tracy here to recap Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 9, Episode 5. And this episode was entitled The Shade Grenade. So the show opens up with Phaedra, and she's on the phone with Congresswoman Frederica Wilson. So if you recall from last season, Phaedra, has made a commitment to help young black boys to avoid prison and succumbing to gun violence. And so on the conversation, they're talking about a police-involved shooting, but I can't remember which shooting it was. It may have been the Philando Castile, or it may have been one prior to that, depending on when they were filming this. And so, Portia arrives and she's wearing this like flowing gown, which was really cute. Portia's always cute in her outfits. And so, she's there to discuss her love life. And so Phaedra, lets Portia know that, she had just got off the phone with the Congresswoman, and that she's going to be going to the Democratic National Convention, which was held in Philadelphia over the summer. And so she invites Portia to tag along with her. Oh, and she also lets Portia know that while she's there, she will be going to visit Apollo, and I guess Portia could come along if she gets on the invite list. So Phaedra talks a little bit about her divorce in the confessional, and she's saying that this is the reason why she's going to visit Apollo, is so that they can finalize all the paperwork and get everything done. But I think I saw a headline somewhere that said that it was actually Apollo that filed for divorce, but I guess I didn't care enough to go and research it. So maybe by the next episode I will have looked it up to see what the deal was with that story. Phaedra and Portia, they make it to Philadelphia for the DNC, and we get an inside look at all the festivities, all the meetings and the private sessions, and, the various people that spoke throughout the week. Not everything goes on that main stage that we see on television. There's a lot of parties that take place, workshops, just a whole lot of activities go on nonstop during the week of these political conventions. And so Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, she sets up a round table with several black men, including the brother of Trayvon Martin, who we know was murdered by George Zimmerman. And Judge Mathis was there, and then there were a few other notable people that attended this round table. And so Portia and Phaedra, I guess it was mainly Phaedra, she was able to ask them some questions in terms of what can she do to help make them safe and help them from avoiding similar fates. So while Portia was en route to visit Apollo, she gets a phone call from, I think it was her assistant named LaToya, and she's letting Phaedra know that some guy has shown up at her office and that he's making a bomb threat. And I think it turns out that the guy actually had a grenade. And so, of course, Phaedra's concerned about the safety of her staff, but also the safety of her children, because surely if this person is at her office acting crazy, there's no, we don't know what, their ultimate end game is. So she calls her mom on the phone, and she's telling her mom what's going on. And her mom is pretty much assuring her that she has the boys, that the boys are safe, and that, Phaedra doesn't have anything to worry about. So one thing I thought was interesting was that when Phaedra was riding in a car, like somebody was driving her. But when the phone call came in, for some reason she told the driver to pull over so she could take this phone call. And I was thinking, if you're not the one driving, why does he have to pull over? But I think that's like some of the crazy things we do, because I know like I'm on my phone sometimes and I'm walking around, but then I'll tell people to hold on so I could go do something, and then it clicks in my brain like, okay, but you're on your cell phone, like you're carrying the phone with you, so why do you have to put the phone down and go get a soda at the refrigerator? So maybe it was just a little faux pas on Phaedra's part, but I did think that was kind of odd. So next we have Cynthia and Kenya, and they go to see a cake decorator to help make the best cake for Matt's upcoming birthday. And so for some reason, well, not for some reason, because she does explain the reason, but Kenya wants to make a Gucci themed cake, and then she tells us something about Matt had a Gucci belt, and he lost the belt. So for his gift, she wants to replace the belt. And I don't know if this meme came out like making fun of Kenya, or if it was just coincidence that like right after the show I was on Facebook and this meme came up, and it was a black and white picture of Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Facebook, and Bill Gates, who's like a billionaire. And so the meme said like 138 billion, I'm making up a number here, 138 billion dollars is in this picture and not a Gucci belt in sight. So like I said, I don't know if it was just coincidence or if somebody was making fun of Kenya wanting to buy Matt that belt. So while they're together, Kenya catches Cynthia up on her and Matt's reunion, and so she tells Cynthia that she's throwing Matt a ATV birthday party, but it was for couples only. So I guess that kind of cut Cynthia, out of the invite list. And I'm thinking, if you got single friends and you all are like really close, why? And that person like is going through a divorce or whatever, why would you have a couples only birthday party? But anyway, that's what Kenya wanted to do. Oh, and then one more thing. So Cynthia had this like huge afro thing going on. I mean, like that thing was bigger than Colin Kaepernick and Angela Davis afros combined together. I mean, it was just like massive and all over the place. So then Kenya was like, are you coming from a Black Panther party? Like, what the hell is going on with all that hair on your head? Later on, we have Cynthia and Noelle, and they go house shopping because Peter only request in the divorce is that Cynthia must sell the house. But I thought that was Cynthia's house, that when she moved to Atlanta, she bought that house and Peter moved into the house with her. But Cynthia says she doesn't mind because she knows that Peter just doesn't want her in the house and maybe meeting another guy and bringing that guy into the house. But for once, she's going to do something, that she really wants to do, and that buying this house and having it for her and Noelle might be something that she'll just treat herself to. So the house they're looking at, it's on the lake, and it's a 6-bedroom house, and I think it costs I think the lady said it was $964,000, but they had just knocked $50,000 off the price. So you're still talking about a house that's over $900,000. And so Noelle is ready, to seal the deal, but Cynthia, tells her to fall back, before she gets them committed to something that she's not fully prepared to afford. And plus, Cynthia asked the lady, could she get the price down to $600,000? So I don't think Cynthia and Noelle are going to be moving into that particular house, but it was a beautiful house on a beautiful lake, very scenic, and the writer in me would just be out in that backyard somewhere just writing up a storm, just peaceful, tranquil, and I hope Cynthia gets the house if she really wants it. We move on to Sheree, and her and Cairo are having a intense mother-son conversation because the night before, Cairo was arrested on a DUI. And he was initially stopped because I think his tag was expired, but of course, once the police got up there and saw that he was impaired, and they ultimately found out that he had been smoking marijuana. So of course, like any mother, Sheree is livid about this, and and she reminds Kyra that they had went to the Million Man March like 6 months earlier, and there is decisions like this that could possibly cost him his life because he was pulled over by the police, and maybe he could have acted erratically or something, and it led to a much bigger situation than it really needed to be. And so she decides to take Kyra over to Bob's house, so Bob can talk to him. And so while they're sitting there talking with Bob, Bob's like, well, before I chastise you, just let you know that I do have my medical marijuana card. And the look on Sheree's face was like, what the hell did I bring my child over here for? So I don't know if Sheree really didn't know that Bob partakes in the medical weed or not, but her expression was priceless. And so Bob pretty much explains to Cairo that the reason he smokes the marijuana is because of his injuries from playing football, but he went about it the right way. And he understands, the medicinal purposes of it, but that's totally different from Cairo out there just, smoking weed, getting high, being out there driving, where he could have caused harm to himself or somebody else. So at the end of the chat, I think Cairo understood, the ramifications and the significance of his actions, and he promises to do better. Now we're on to Candy and Todd, and so they are at the restaurant, and it is a unfinished mess. And I don't know if this scene was actually shot before the scene where they took the mom and her sisters to the restaurant, because it looked more unfinished in this episode than it did then. And I'm thinking, he kept complaining that they were 3 months behind, and I'm like, okay, y'all, I don't know what y'all were doing, but there's a whole lot of work that needs to be going on if y'all going to get this completed. And I really don't think that the restaurant is still open. It was supposed to open in May, then it was supposed to open in August, and then here it is November, and I really don't think that they have opened yet. And I saw some footage from Thanksgiving. I think they had their Thanksgiving dinner there, but it just looked like family and friends. It didn't look like it was open for business. So while Candy and Todd are talking, Peter shows up and he wants to give them some advice. And so he lets them know that, he has over 32 years of experience, so it's easier for him to open a restaurant and get things going, because he knows like how to find a space and what's going to take the less amount of work that needs to be done, but he's impressed with what Todd is trying to do. And so Todd takes him outside and was like, this is going to be an outdoor patio, and we're going to have bands and all this stuff. And you could tell by Peter's expression that he knows that Todd is his concept is probably here, but his ideas of what it's going to be is way out here, and that he probably needs to tone it down and move a little at a slower pace, maybe get the restaurant open, then expand to doing the outdoor, seating, then, get that going, and then expand to bringing in bands. That maybe Todd is just doing way too much at this beginning point, especially since he has no experience in running a restaurant. There came a point where Candy, she decided to leave, and so Todd and Peter, they started having guy talk, and Todd asks about Apollo, and then the conversation turns to divorce. And so Peter's kind of nonchalant about it, but Todd shares with him that he's concerned that him and Candy's relationship may be a little strained under the pressure of him trying to get the restaurant open. And so the confessionals are always interesting, because when Peter and Todd do their confessionals, it's like so telling about relationships and how perspectives can be so different between the partners, where, Candy may be seeing it one way and Todd may be seeing it another way, and how Peter saw his whole situation with Cynthia one way, but, Cynthia was fed up and tired, and Peter just wasn't grasping that, he was on his way out if he didn't get his act together. So later on, Todd returns home, and when he walks in, Candy tells him that, he hasn't washed his sweaty balls in days. And I'm thinking, Todd, like, I know good and well you ain't getting in the bed with your wife and haven't taken a bath the night before. But, like, what the hell is going on? So, Todd is stressing out, and, he's can't get the restaurant open. And so I just think it's causing a lot of pressures. But I hope Candy was just playing that her man, is changing his clothes every day, and he is taking a bath. So Mama Joyce comes in, and she has the remedy to the problem. Mama Joyce has gone into the guest house on Candy's property, and she has set up like this romantic scene, and she has some of Candy's products. And I think I'd be getting Candy's product line. Is it Bedroom Candy? Because I think before I said it was Candy Coated Nice, but I think Candy Coated Nice is her talk show, her radio talk show. But anyway, Mama Joyce got the products together, and she, like I say, set up the candles and all this stuff for them to go have a romantic afternoon. And so I think Mama Joyce was doing too much, because I don't think I would want my mother setting up a romantic interlude between me and my husband. But Mama Joyce says that she knows Candy has some rusty pipes going on, and that she needs to get that cleaned out and get herself together. So maybe Candy has been showing a little more stress than she thinks she has. So somewhere between Candy and Todd taking a shower, and I don't know, it just wasn't a romantic scene to me. It seemed a little awkward, because Mama Joyce took baby Ace and left Candy and Todd in the guest house. But then we see Candy in the main house sneaking downstairs from her bedroom, and Mama Joyce is like, "What are you doing?" And so she said, "Oh, I bought this negligee for Todd, but I never wore it, so I wanted to put it on and be sexy for Todd." So then she has to go back. Now remember, there's like a distance between Candy's house and this guest house, so she has to go outside and then go back inside the other house. And so she sachets back into the house, and then Todd is standing there, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all, Todd didn't look like he had took no bath, but I'm going to assume that he had taken a shower or whatever, so he has Candy lay down on the counter. I guess it's like a dressing table or something, but it has like a marble countertop, and so Candy lays on that, and then he's like, putting oil on her and everything. But like I said, that whole scene was a little awkward. It wasn't romantic to me, but if it worked for them. But it did make Todd stop and realize that, damn, my mother-in-law set this up. I need to step my game up and do better by my wife. So, even though they were having this romantic interlude, Candy took the opportunity, to bring up to Todd that, she is kind of concerned because out of all the couples, on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, that her and Todd are the only ones that are still together. Cynthia and Peter are getting a divorce. Sheree and Bob, they're divorced already, even though they may be getting back together. And then, the problems that Kenya and Matt are having. So she's a little worried. So hopefully, because it's on their mind that, if they need to seek counseling or anything, that they will do that, and that they are willing to fight for their relationship and fight for their marriage. So on to Kenya. And, she's on the phone with Cynthia, and she's telling Cynthia about her and Matt. And so, he's been acting really crazy with his behaviors and everything. And so she said that she posted a picture on her Instagram of her and I think she said Jay-Z, and so it was like for Throwback Thursday, and it was from some music video that she had appeared in. And so she says that Matt saw the picture and he flipped out and was acting all crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, now your man crazy. You got to know he's crazy. You're old enough to know that something is not right with him and that he has jealousy issues. So why would you bait him like that and post this picture knowing that it was probably going to upset him? And I'm just like really troubled by Kenya and the whole Matt situation, because like I say, she's too old, and she should recognize that this is not a healthy situation. If Matt is truly acting the way that she say that he's acting, that, she has to know that this is not a good look and things aren't going to get better. So it's the day of Matt's surprise birthday party, and it turns out that the surprise is actually on Kenya because Matt didn't show up. He's actually left town, and I think they said he went to California to visit his sister. So at the party, it is Kenya and some other friend, and I want to say it was the lady who had the cake decorating business that her and Cynthia went to earlier in the episode. And then there was Candy and Todd, and then the other couple was Candy's friend Lena, who dates the R&B singer RL, and I can't remember which group he was in. I don't know. He was in some singing group. And then this was like a telling scene about Kenya, that she didn't have any friends to invite to the party because, so it was Candy and Todd, but then Lena is Candy's friend, so why did she invite her to Matt's birthday party? But anyway, Matt wasn't there, so it didn't matter. So after they do the ATV racing, and then they come back and there's like a lunch set up for them to partake in. And so Candy, she gets to the point and she's like, so come on, Kenya, spill the beans. What's really going on with you and Matt? Just tell us the truth. So, Kenya lets her guard down, and she lets them know that they are having, some issues. And so at this point, Todd and RL, being the only guys at the table, they want to give her some advice on maintaining a relationship when one of the parties in the relationship is a celebrity. So we kind of had it from both perspectives, because we have Todd and Candy, where Candy is the celebrity, and then with RL and Lena, RL is the celebrity. So she got advice from, you know, both ways. And so what they should have been telling her is that she needs to run like hell, because I can't believe that Kenya is on this show acting like, you know, Matt's behavior is cute and that he's just throwing temper tantrums. And speaking of Kenya and Matt, you know, I stumbled upon a video by, I think her name is Layla Lynn. And so, you know, she's basically breaking down the whole Matt and Kenya fiasco. And Matt has started doing like these video blogs on Instagram, and it's called Truth in the Truck. Crazy. But I guess he's trying to talk about other issues and build a platform. But, you know, people that are coming to this page are constantly asking him about, you know, his relationship with Kenya. And so the Layla Lynn lady, you know, she points out that he is supposedly dating Tiffany Mayon, who I have no idea who she is. And so, but I guess she's famous for plastic surgery work that she's done, and she's like a reality star, but I don't know what reality show she plays on. So she's also talking about Kenya's relationships with James. You remember the guy from the Millionaire Matchmaker, and how Kenya was on the show pretending like they were together and dating and all this stuff, but in reality the guy had done met another woman and gone on to get married, and Bravo just, you know, covered that up and didn't address it at all on the reunion show or afterwards. And then she brings up Walter, you know, in an interview that Walter had did, but you know, I'm not the one to gossip. So, you know, if you're interested in that whole story, go to Layla's YouTube page, and it was the video that she posted on November 30th. So while at the party, Candy gets a phone call from Carmen, and when she goes to take the call, it's Carmen telling her about the guys at Phaedra's office, you know, and he's threatening to blow up the place. And so I don't know, Candy's whole reaction to the whole thing was kind of sketchy. So I don't know if it was planned to happen that way, or if she was really surprised and it was like a nervous laughter. But none of them really seemed sincere, like sincerely concerned about Phaedra. And it was more like, ooh, we got some juicy gossip on her. And so, you know, of course, Candy goes back and she shares the information with everybody at the table. And like I said, you know, they were being really phony and fake about, you know, hearing the news that somebody was there trying to blow up Phaedra's office. So the show pretty much ends with Pastor Regina, you know, who's Phaedra's mom, and she tells Phaedra, you know, to just calm down and pray, you know, so she starts praying with Phaedra. And then when Phaedra and her mom hang up the phone, then the phone rings again, and it is Apollo on the phone, you know, wanting to know where she's at. So my question for this video is regarding Kenya and Matt. And although I am sure that this is all for show, do you think that Kenya is setting a bad precedence for young women watching the show, you know, by downplaying Matt's behavior as a sign of immaturity? And what about her desperation to want to be seen as being in a relationship, you know, when she's had like 3 attempts on the show and every last one of them have backfired and left her looking like the fool? And so leave your comments below, and, you know, let's get the conversation started. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. I'm 11 subscribers short of being able to set my own personal URL. So, you know, I want to thank everybody who subscribed already. And go ahead and check out my other recaps. And I also recapped the Mariah Carey, Mariah's World, which I thought that show was so stupid. But anyway, check that out. And I hope that, you know, everyone has a great weekend. And until next time, bye-bye.